Incredible twist, Millionaire discovers his college sweetheart driving his taxi, a heartwarming reunion that fuels dreams. Ethan stepped out of the glamorous charity gala into the crisp Chicago night, his heart still racing from the speech he had just given. He had talked about giving back, about revolutionizing the world. But as the polished cars whizzed past him, the truth pressed on his chest. His millions felt so insufficient against the backdrop of the simple lives he had left behind. Hailing a taxi, he was lost in the whirlwind of thoughts, family, dreams, and memories of nights spent with Sarah, his college sweetheart. They had painted futures filled with promise, but life had pulled them apart as it often does, tossing them into vastly different realities. When the taxi doors swung open and he saw her face, his heart momentarily stopped. Sarah. It felt like a punch to the gut. Ethan, she whispered, her smile strained but genuine. The years fell away in an instant, but Ethan couldn't ignore the weary lines drawing on her face. She wore a simple cap, and the shadows beneath her eyes hinted at sleepless nights, a stark contrast to the polished world he navigated. "What are you doing here?" "I drive," she replied softly, the words laced with resilience. As they navigated through the busy streets, he learned of her struggles. Her mother was unwell, and every shift was a fight against despair. Meanwhile, his life had soared, his tech company thriving while the community he once cherished seemed to suffer without him. Churning emotions pulled at him. He remembered their dreams, the sparkle in her eyes as they chased ambitions together, dreams of lifting others alongside them. "I want to help," he said, his voice almost breaking. But as the words left his mouth, he felt a rush of guilt for even suggesting it. His wealth wasn't yet a barrier now, instead of a bridge to the help they needed. "Ethan, it's complicated," she said, her expression clouded with hesitation. She had the heart of his past intertwined with a reality he had somehow forgotten. It struck him that their paths had diverged painfully, influenced by socio-economic divides that had lingered like shadows. As they spoke, local community leaders' urgings started to resonate in his mind. They decided to team up, wanting to revitalize their old neighborhood, a dream reignited. But every conversation they shared stirred both hope and unspoken bitterness, the past haunting their budding partnership. Just when they thought they could make a real difference, Sarah dropped the bombshell. Her taxi business was on the brink of closing due to gentrification pressures. Panic clawed at him. Here he was, a millionaire struggling with the choice: should he safeguard Sarah's business and the community tied to their roots, or retreat back into the cocoon of his affluent life? Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The weight of the decision crashed down on him like a wave. He could almost hear the echoes of their childhood laughter mix with current fears. Sarah was looking at him, a mixture of hope and desperation flooding her gaze. "Ethan, please," but he found himself frozen, caught between two worlds: the safety of his success and the call to fight for the dreams they once shared. As the sun dipped below the skyline, leaving the city aglow with possibilities, Ethan's heart raced. This was not just about Sarah or nostalgia, it was about the future. Would he find the courage to embrace the challenge ahead, or let the comforts of his wealth overshadow their shared dreams? Ethan stood on the sidewalk, uncertainty swirling around him like the autumn leaves catching the wind. Sarah's desperate gaze pierced through the fog of his thoughts. Every glance seemed to shout the possibility of another life, another choice. "Ethan," she urged, stepping closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "You know how much this community needs us. You can't just walk away." He felt the weight of those words clinging to him, almost suffocating. Helping felt right, but how could he bridge the chasm that had developed between their worlds? "I've built my life at the top of a skyscraper, Sarah. Everything I have is a world away from this." He gestured vaguely around, toward the busy streets, the aging storefronts, and the hopeful faces passing by. Your wealth doesn't change who you are. It can't erase your heart, the dreams we shared. Her voice cracked, the vulnerability striking like a blow. We can create something meaningful together. We always believed in making a difference. Her determination gripped him. Memories flickered in his mind, late-night study sessions, laughter echoing through the college dorms, hands clasped as they planned their futures. Back then, possibility felt endless. But now, responsibility and reality collided, leaving him paralyzed. What if I fail? The words escaped his lips before he could catch them. A wave of vulnerability washed over him, the fear of failure gnawing at his insides. What if you don't? Sarah shot back, her voice fierce, eyes brimming with hope. You might change everything. It starts with the first step. Ethan understood what she meant. But the ghosts of doubt whispered in his ear, taunting him. What if he couldn't deliver? What if the truth of his privilege overshadowed their efforts? He had seen it before. The good intention turned sour by the glaring divide between them. Taking a deep breath, he pushed the fear down, letting it settle into determination. What do we need to do? He asked, gripping the door of the taxi as if it were the anchor to stability. Let's start with a fundraiser, Sarah suggested, excitement coursing through her voice. We can showcase local artists, have some speakers from the community raise awareness about the issues we're facing. And we can ask for donations to keep my business afloat. Images of laughter and joy filled his mind, the thought of their community coming together evoked a spark. They had been dreamers once, crafting plans amidst late-night fries and coffee. After all these years, could they really stir that energy again? Okay, he said finally, his voice steadier. Let us do it. A smile broke out on Sarah's face, a radiant light that melted away his doubts momentarily. We start tomorrow. But you need to be all in. I want to let you second-guess this. As they stood there, a new determination rooted itself in their hearts, a partnership igniting. The streetlights flickered, casting warm glows that mirrored their shared hope. But deep down, a nagging thought remained: was he truly ready to forsake the comfort that had cradled him until now? Their eyes met, and Ethan felt the weight of her gaze, reminder of their shared history. Just then, an incoming call interrupted their moment. It was a familiar number, one he hadn't anticipated answering tonight. His mind whirled. Was this a coincidence or divine timing? With uncertainty knotting in his stomach, he glanced at Sarah, who raised an eyebrow. You okay? No, he thought. But he smiled, masking the doubt. Let's just say, things might be getting more complicated. What awaited him on the other end of that line? Would this call bring clarity or plunge him back into chaos? With a deep breath, he answered, ready for whatever was to come. Ethan felt the chill of the night air wrap around him as he answered, his heartbeat thundering in his chest. The voice on the other end was familiar yet tinged with an urgency that threw him off balance. Ethan. It's Jake, his old college roommate said, pulling Ethan back years to late-night talks and shared dreams. I know it's late, but we need to talk. It's important. Jake. What is going on? Ethan's mind flickered with concern. He hadn't spoken to Jake in months. They're planning to sell the community center. The one where we used to volunteer. Jake's voice was tight with emotion. It's been struggling for funding, and now they're talking about turning it into a high-end condo. We can't let that happen. Ethan's stomach dropped. The community center was a lifeline. But, what can we do? I'm just one person. Not if you bring Sarah on board. You two always had a way of rallying people. I remember rallies, the art fairs you started. People listened. We need to do something before it's too late. He looked at Sarah, her eyes searched his face, and he could see the light fading from her hopeful expression. This was the urgency she'd spoken of. The community needed them, and now Jake was echoing that call. Ethan took a deep breath, a strange mix of terror and excitement blooming in his chest. Okay. Let us meet. Where and when? Can we do early in the morning? The park by the lake. It's quiet there. See you at 8. 8 it is, Ethan replied. The line went dead and he turned to Sarah. We need to meet with Jake. The community center is in trouble. Her eyes widened, a rush of determination reshaping her weariness. If they sell that place, so many families will be affected, kids, classes, everything we worked for back in the day. This can't happen. But will it actually change anything? Ethan's doubt bubbled back to the surface, the weight of his privilege nagging at him. You've already changed, Ethan. You're here, aren't you? Sarah's voice flowed with conviction, reminding him why they were stepping onto this path in the first place. You can't let doubts keep you from fighting. Her resolve anchored him. They made a plan, scribbling notes under the glow of the streetlights, mapping out every idea and every artist they could include to rock this fundraiser. The more they spoke, the heavier the excitement settled in. But as they planned, Ethan couldn't shake off the exchange he had with Jake. There was a renewed determination in him, a flicker of hope ignited by the idea that maybe together, they could make a real difference. Are you ready? Sarah's question jolted him back to the moment. He gave her the nod, swallowing the fears threatening to bubble back to the surface. Let us do it, he affirmed, this time with more certainty. As they walked away, the city hummed with possibilities. But just then, out of nowhere, a taxi pulled up, and the driver swung the door open, calling out, "Need a ride?" Ethan paused, and as the driver turned, his breath caught in his throat. It was a face he had not seen in years. Rachel, his college sweetheart. The girl who once filled his world with light and laughter. Ethan? She asked, surprise dancing in her voice as her gaze locked onto his. What were the odds? Was this another twist in the complicated journey ahead? And what would Rachel say about the cause he was diving back into? The past was standing right in front of him, daring him to connect the dots. Would this unexpected reunion bring more chaos or a chance to heal old wounds? Hey, Rachel, he finally managed to say, emotions overlapping like a collage, thoughts racing in a tangle. And suddenly, the night felt like it was just beginning. Ethan? Rachel smiled, a genuine warmth spreading across her features. It's so good to see you. The taxi's interior light cast a soft glow around her, illuminating the familiar contours of her face that Ethan had long remembered. It felt surreal watching her step out from behind the wheel. The universe conspired to throw them back together at a moment like this. Good to see you too, Ethan replied, his voice a little hoarse as memories surfaced, the laughter, the late-night discussions about dreams and future uncertainties. Still diving into community work, I see. Rachel tilted her head slightly, an eyebrow raised, her curiosity evident. Ethan hesitated. Actually, it's complicated. He glanced over at Sarah, who stood quietly, absorbing the scene. We're trying to save the community center. They want to sell it. A flicker of concern crossed Rachel's face. The one by the lake? Yeah, it's at risk of becoming condos. Jake just filled me in. We're meeting him tomorrow to brainstorm ideas. Rachel's gaze lingered on Ethan, as if weighing the depth of his conviction. I remember all the hours we spent there, with the kids. It would be a shame to see it go. I didn't think you'd feel that way, Ethan replied, surprised. They hadn't talked about it back then, hadn't shared the passions that connected them. Rachel shook her head slowly. I've been away for so long. Losing those places hits hard, especially where you find a feeling of belonging. Ethan's heart swelled at her words, an ache between nostalgia and the present, sprinkled with hope. I could use your help on this. We always sparked life into things together. She paused, looking deeper into his eyes. I'd love to. It's about time I got involved again. Sarah stepped forward, her expression softening. You two always knew how to rally a crowd. I'd love to have you on board. Rachel nodded, her spirit reignited in an instant. Let us make a plan. They began to brainstorm almost immediately, the ideas flowing like water as they rallied around the cause that had intertwined their histories. Each suggestion became a shared laugh, building a foundation of excitement that gradually turned into spirited enthusiasm. But as they spoke, Ethan felt threads of uncertainty tugging at him. What if we can't pull this off? What if the funding just isn't there this time? What ifs don't build communities? Rachel challenged gently, her eyes locking with his. Strength comes from trying, not from fear of failing. Her words settled within him, buoying his spirits higher. Ethan realized that fear had been his heavy blanket, keeping him from seeking out connections and change. But here, with Rachel and Sarah, each voice melded into something greater, a community that had the power to fight back. As the three of them began to solidify their plans, the city roared back to life around them. They spoke of yard sales, art shows, everything that could bring the community together as it once had. Just then, the sound of a phone chirped, slicing through the raw energy of the moment. It was Jake, confirming their meeting time. Ethan answered, excitement bubbling between them as he shared their growing plans. After hanging up, he turned to Rachel. So, how have you been? Her gaze shifted suddenly, thoughtful. I made some big changes, just like you, I guess. It's only been recently that I realized how important it is to come back to my roots. Do you think it's worth it? Ethan ventured, vulnerability spilling into his voice. There's so much power in home, Ethan. It's about what we make of it now. In that moment, the burden of the past seemed lighter. The three of them stood together, united by a common thread, ready to take on what lay ahead. But just as hope deepened, the whisper of something unexpected fluttered through the air. A distant siren, echoing the urgency of their mission, and Ethan suddenly felt a prickling sensation at the back of his mind. What else was waiting on the horizon? Would the past and present entwine in ways he could not yet foresee? The night stretched ahead, full of mystery and promise. Ethan felt the energy shift as Rachel's words hung in the air, swirling with both urgency and unspoken possibilities. He couldn't shake the feeling that their reunion was more than just coincidence. Maybe it was fate pulling them together again, nudging them to revisit the past while building a brighter future. Do you remember the talent show we organized back then? Sarah chimed in, breaking his train of thought. Her eyes sparkled with memory. That ridiculous puppet show we did to raise funds for the center. I still can't believe we pulled that off. Rachel laughed, the sound pure and infectious. Yes. And the kids were so excited. They thought we were real stars. Ethan chuckled, his chest swelling with warmth at the memory. That was the best. We had so much fun doing it. I think we raised a decent chunk of change too, right? More than we expected. Rachel said, her smile turning a bit wistful. Those were good days. I never wanted them to end. The laughter faded as they were left to ponder the fragility of time. Ethan glanced at Rachel, noticing the hint of sadness behind her smile. Her enthusiasm, however, was palpable, rekindling the flame inside him. Make it fun again, he said softly, inspired. That's what we need for this community center. Let us channel that energy into something great. Absolutely, Rachel replied, enthusiasm returning to her voice. Fundraising events, art classes, family days, we would bring everyone together again. With a little hard work, I believe we can save it. Ethan nodded fervently, his passion igniting further. I can handle the meetings and outreach to locals. Maybe set up an online page to gather support. I can pitch in with graphic design for flyers and social media, Sarah offered, her excitement taking root. We can create a buzz. You know, make it fun and engaging. Suddenly, Ethan's phone buzzed again, breaking their momentum. It was a message from Jake, we need to talk. Important news about the center. The terse tone sent a jolt through him. Fear gripped his heart, and his thoughts raced. What if something threatened their plans even before they started? Everything okay? Rachel asked, her voice a gentle hand on his shoulder. He hesitated, then nodded slowly. Yeah, just a message from Jake. But we'll get through this. Whatever it is, we will. Feeling a weight settle within him, he took a breath, attempting to steady his racing heart. I guess we'll find out tomorrow. I'd like you both there if you can make it. Of course. Rachel said, determination thickening her voice. We're in this together. But even as they planned, an unsettling feeling lingered beneath the surface. As excited as Ethan felt about their rediscovered purpose, the message from Jake loomed like a dark cloud ready to cast its shadow over their newfound hope. Rachel's gaze met his, and for a moment, it felt like a tether re-established between them, stronger than before. No matter what happens, we'll face it together, she promised, sincerity lacing her words. Yeah, Ethan said, feeling that bind tighten within him. We will. As they continued discussing their ideas, the night air thickened with a mixture of optimism and unanswered questions. Ethan's heart wavered, caught between hope and a growing unease, sensing the promise of change on one side and the potential reality of setbacks on the other, and with every passing moment, he braced himself for whatever was coming. The night held its breath, and in the shadows, secrets brewed, waiting to unravel. What was Jake holding back? Would it throw their plans into chaos, or was it the key to a breakthrough that could change everything? The answers loomed just over the horizon, waiting, bated breath and unyielding mystery. The sun hung low in the sky the next day, casting long shadows over the community center. Ethan arrived early, the familiarity of the place washing over him like a comforting hug. He took a moment to breathe in the scent of old wood and fresh paint, remembering the laughter that once echoed through these walls. When the door swung open, Rachel and Sarah stepped in together, their expressions bright yet tinged with anticipation. Ethan greeted them with a smile, but inside, his pulse quickened. Jake's message weighed heavily on him. Hey, guys. You ready for this? He tried to sound upbeat, but his voice betrayed him. Ready as we can be, Rachel replied, her eyes scanning the room. Let us do what we can, Sarah added, her fingers tapping nervously against her notebook. They gathered around a table that had seen better days, pushing aside stacks of paper and old donation cans to create a workspace. The room buzzed with possibilities, but underneath, regret seeped into the air as they thought of what could happen. Where's Jake? Ethan asked, glancing at his phone for the time as if it could will him some answers. He's usually here by now, Rachel noted, biting her lip. I hope everything's okay. Just then, the door swung open again, and Jake shuffled in, his expression grave. Ethan felt the knot in his stomach tighten. The spark of hope they had built during the previous night felt more fragile than ever. Hey, sorry I'm late, Jake said, his tone serious. I've got some news that you all need to hear. Ethan's breath caught. Is it about the center? Jake nodded, pulling a chair up to the table. Yeah. I had a meeting with the city council yesterday. Turns out, they're considering selling the property to a developer. His words hit like a punch, and silence wrapped around them like a cold blanket. What? They can't do that. Rachel exclaimed, her voice rising. This place means everything to our community. I know, Jake replied, running a hand through his hair. But it's not final yet. They're looking for proposals from local organizations to see if anyone wants to take it over. We have a chance, but it won't be easy. Ethan's heart raced. A chance. We can put together a proposal. We have the ideas, the energy, and we're passionate about making a difference here. That's the spirit, Ethan. Jake encouraged, though his eyes fluttered with doubt. But we'll need funds. Lots of them. Rachel leaned forward, determination returning to her voice. We can organize fundraising events. We already have a plan. As excitement bubbled in the room, Ethan could sense the spark reigniting. They began throwing around ideas, bake sales, car washes, and even an outdoor concert. The momentum was palpable, rekindling the hope that had dimmed just moments before, but Jake's face darkened again. It's not just about raising money. We'll need community backing, support from families and honestly, we'll be facing some powerful opposition. Voices grew quiet as the enormity of the challenge settled over them. Each of them knew the risks, but there was also a fierce determination blooming. If we can pull everyone in, remind them why this place matters, maybe we can save it, Ethan said, his conviction palpable. Rachel nodded, but a flicker of concern crossed her face. What if we can't? We won't just be losing the center, we'd lose everything we've worked for. Ethan met her gaze, feeling the weight of her words. Then we fight together. As they formulated their plan, an unexpected thought tugged at the corners of Ethan's mind. What if there was more to this fight than saving a building? What if it meant bringing the community back to life? That night, as they made calls, sent messages, and brainstormed strategies, Ethan felt a growing bond between them, a thread woven from memories, resilience, and reclaimed hope. With the sun dipping below the horizon, a sense of urgency pulsed in the air. Could they really pull this off? Could they rally everyone before it was too late? What would happen when the developer showed up? As he followed their discussions, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that fate had intertwined their paths for a reason. And looming overhead was still the question echoing within him: what other secrets were hidden within the shadows of this fight? The next morning was met with a sense of awakening. Ethan stirred, memories of last night's planning session still fresh in his mind. A flicker of hope danced in his chest, but behind it lurked uncertainty. He rolled out of bed and grabbed his phone. There were texts from Rachel and Jake, buzzing with ideas and encouragement to keep moving. It was enough to propel him out the door, his steps quickening with purpose. As he made his way to the community center, Ethan spotted familiar faces along the street. Neighbors hustled about their daily routines, some stopping briefly to wave or exchange pleasantries. It struck him how much the community meant to everyone, and how this center was the heart of it all. It wasn't just a building, it was history, memories, and dreams yet to unfold. When he arrived, Rachel and Jake were already setting up folding chairs in the main hall. Sarah joined them shortly after, carrying a stack of colorful flyers. Excitement filled the space as they laid out plans for their first fundraising event, a community barbecue. Ethan! Look at these! Sarah exclaimed, beaming as she presented the flyers. I wanted them to burst with color and energy. The more inviting, the better. Perfect. We need to make people feel like this is their chance to give back, Ethan replied, a smile creeping onto his face, but Jake, usually the positive one, folded his arms tightly. I appreciate the enthusiasm, but we need more than just pretty flyers. We need a big turnout, and that means reaching everyone. Then let us hit the streets, Rachel suggested, her brows furrowing in concentration. Let us show them why this place matters. We'll hand these out, talk to people, share the stories. Heart pounding with adrenaline, they split into pairs. Ethan and Rachel headed toward the park, where families often gathered. As they walked through the sunny green space, Ethan felt a surge of belonging. He could picture their community coming alive, just like they envisioned. Approaching a group of parents sitting on picnic benches, Ethan took a deep breath. Hey, everyone! We're working on something big for our community center, and we need your help. The conversation softened as heads turned toward them. Rachel launched into an explanation, speaking from the heart about their mission to keep the center open, to preserve a space for the families to connect and grow. One of the moms, Marissa, raised her hand. I love the center. My kids have learned so much there. What can we do to help? Ethan's heart soared. We're organizing a barbecue to raise funds and awareness. It would mean the world to have you all there. Cheers ensued, and just as Ethan felt he'd captured their attention, Marissa added, count me in. I can bring my famous potato salad. They exchanged contact information, and with each person they spoke to, Ethan felt emboldened. Word began to spread, excitement building like a wave. By the time they returned to the center, energy buzzed in the air. Sarah had set up a solution board, jotting down every offer of help. Donations, volunteer hours, even local talent pitching in to perform at the barbecue. Everyone wanted to be a part of it. Look at this list. Sarah enthused. We can really do this. But just as Ethan was ready to dive back into the wind of enthusiasm, Jake's phone rang. He held up a finger, silencing everyone. As he stepped away, the atmosphere shifted. Ethan could see Jake's face clouding over, his brow furrowing with concern. Was this related to the developer? A wave of worry washed over Ethan. He glanced at Rachel, who mirrored his concern. Maybe it's nothing, she said, though hardly convinced. But deep inside, Ethan knew nothing was ever nothing in times like these. After a seemingly endless wait, Jake returned, his face paler than before. They want to meet today. The words hung heavy in the air. His heart dropped, the stakes just became real. What did this mean for their proposal? Were they ready to face the music? The clock was ticking, and they had a showdown coming. How would they protect their dreams and the center's legacy? As they gathered around to strategize, Ethan's mind raced. Could they stand strong against whatever was about to unfold? The day suddenly felt darker, and Ethan couldn't help but wonder. What if fighting for the center meant losing something he never saw coming? Ethan stood there, his heart thumping in his chest like a war drum. The looming meeting was closer than ever, and he could feel the cold grip of fear tightening around him. Do you think they have a strategy to shut us down? He asked, glancing at Rachel and Jake, their faces etched with worry. Rachel shook her head. I don't know. But today is about more than just the building. It's about our community and what we stand for. But what if they come at us with something we can't fight? Jake's voice trembled, a stark contrast to his usual enthusiasm. What happens if they throw money at us and expect us to close shop? Ethan's gaze drifted toward the window, where a few kids played outside, their laughter filling the air like music. Memories of joyous birthday parties and community events flooded his mind, coloring his resolve. We can't let that happen, he said, his voice steadying. We need a plan that shows them this isn't just a building, it's a lifeline. It's family. They packed their bags, determination surging through their group. Each step back to the community center felt like walking into the eye of a storm. The developer they were set to meet was known for swallowing up small businesses. The thought filled Ethan with dread, but he couldn't back down. Not now. Inside, emotions ran high as they gathered around a small table strewn with scraps of paper and hastily drawn diagrams. Let us turn our fears into facts, Ethan urged. We'll lay out the benefits the center brings. Community engagement, educational programs, safe spaces for youth. They need to see what they stand to lose. Rachel nodded, her previous worry dissipating. We can present statistics on how community centers reduce crime and increase local business. We have to make them understand the true value. Jake's brow furrowed as he jotted down notes. If it comes down to dollars and cents, we need to have our financials in order. Show them how much this place means to us, and what it means for the community's future. The air thickened with urgency as they crafted their arguments, their passion a flickering flame against the encroaching shadows. As time slipped away, Ethan couldn't help but wonder if they were truly prepared for the confrontation ahead. In the midst of their discussion, a knock at the door sent a shiver racing down Ethan's spine. Sarah peeked in, her face pale. They're here, she breathed, glancing back nervously. Ethan swallowed hard, heart racing. Let us stand together. The tension in the room was palpable as they formed a line. When the developer entered, flanked by a couple of sharply dressed advisors, he exuded an air of confidence. Ethan could see the smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. Thank you for meeting with us, Ethan began, trying to keep his voice steady. We're here to discuss the future of the community center, the developer said, his tone dismissive. And frankly, you might want to hear our offer. Ethan's heart thudded as the man spoke, his words blurring into background noise. He clenched his fists, struggling to keep himself grounded. As Rachel leaned in closer, her shoulder brushing against his, he felt a surge of determination. They wouldn't let this man bulldoze their dreams. As they launched into their carefully crafted presentation, anticipation crackled in the air. Would their heartfelt explanations resonate? Would their community truly stand behind them? But just as Ethan was starting to see flickers of interest from the developers, the situation took a sharp turn. The developer leaned back in his chair, a smug expression spreading across his face as he pulled a file from his briefcase. "Before we proceed," he said, a mischievous glint in his eye, "let me show you something interesting." What could he possibly have up his sleeve? Ethan felt his stomach lurch. Was it a threat? A backhanded proposal? Or something even more devastating? As the meeting tightened its grip, everyone's breath held in suspense. What would this revelation bring? Would their fight end before it truly began? The room was on the brink of upheaval, and Ethan wasn't sure if he was ready for the storm that was about to unfold. The developer opened the file slowly, deliberately, as if savoring the moment. Ethan felt the air grow thick and heavy, the tension wrapping around them all like a tightrope. He could sense Rachel's hand clenching beside him, and Jake's jaw was set in grim determination. What was in that file? Had they truly miscalculated their standing in this fight? Here, the developer began, flipping the file to reveal a series of glossy images. "This is your community center, and this," he paused, his eyes gleaming maliciously, "is the new luxury apartment complex we're proposing to build right on this site." Ethan's breath hitched in his throat. The images showed an extravagant building, gleaming glass and steel, promising high-end amenities and luxury for the city's elite. His stomach twisted at the thought. They would be turning their precious community center into something that would only serve a few. Rachel gasped, her voice barely above a whisper. "You can't be serious. You're planning to tear this place down for that?" "Business is business, my dear," the developer replied, the smirk on his face widening. "This is a prime location. And let's face it, it would be much easier financially speaking if you chose to sell. All the numbers are in our favor." Ethan's heart raced. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. "Our community deserves better. You're looking at profits, but we're looking at lives here. This center means everything to our children, our families. You're selling out our values for a quick buck. Sentiment won't pay your bills," he quipped, flipping through the file with a hint of arrogance. Ethan remembered the laughter of the children outside, the family gatherings, and the late-night sessions where they planned youth programs. That love was their greatest asset, something they couldn't allow this man to devalue, but as he steadied himself on shaky legs, something clicked inside him. He stared directly into the developer's eyes, feeling the heat of his own anger morphing into motivation. "You may think you hold all the cards, but if we stand united, the community stands behind us. We're here to fight for what's right." The developer chuckled, unfazed. "Look, I appreciate the sentiment. But it's just a matter of time before you see that selling is the best option. It's always the same, sentimental ideals fade when faced with reality." Before Ethan could respond, Jake stepped forward, his voice strong. "You underestimate us. This center isn't just walls and a roof. It's hope, it's family, and it's love. We won't just roll over." The developer raised an eyebrow, a flicker of surprise breaking through his confident facade. "And what is it exactly you plan to do? Rally the community? That narrative seems quaint, don't you think?" As silence fell over the room, Ethan realized they had to do more than just defend their stance, they needed a counterattack. It was time to show this man what power truly lay in unity. "Let's set up a town hall meeting," Ethan suggested, sensing his own resolve growing. "We'll invite everyone, families, local businesses, community leaders. We'll show you just how much the center matters to our lives." The developer's smile faltered slightly, but he quickly regained his composure. "You really think a bunch of heartfelt speeches will stop the wheels of progress?" "I believe they just might," Ethan replied, feeling the energy shift around him. Rachel and Jake exchanged glances, their expressions igniting his own spirit. "And if you truly think this can go unnoticed, you're in for a reality check." The developer stood, his face now shadowed by uncertainty. "We'll see about that," he said, gathering his papers. "I'll be back." As he walked out, Ethan felt a surge of adrenaline. They may have just ignited a war, but he could sense a community rallying. This fight was far from over. With the door closing behind the developer, Rachel breathed, "Do you really think they'll show up? Our community?" Ethan looked around the room, their shared resolve electrifying the air. "They have to. We just need to show them what we have to lose." In that moment, a flicker of hope ignited again. But would it be enough? Would a community come together for the fight of their lives, or was it all just a wishful dream? As they prepared for the battle ahead, the weight of the moment bore down on Ethan like a storm cloud gathering strength. Would they rise to the occasion? Or would they be swept away in the tide of change? Ethan stood at the center of the community hall, the walls vibrating with energy. The room was packed, families, kids, elders, all gathered together with hope shining in their eyes. He couldn't believe it. This was his community, the very heart of everything that mattered. "Thank you all for being here today," he began, his voice steady despite the pounding of his heart. "This isn't just a building we're fighting for. This is about our families, our kids, our futures. We cannot let anyone tear this down." Cheers erupted, families clasping hands, neighbors exchanging nods of understanding. Sarah stood nearby, her eyes glistening. Rachel was right next to her, both ready to rally more support. The warmth of shared purpose radiated through the crowd like sunlight breaking through dark clouds. Ethan glanced out, taking in their faces, the children who played outside after school, the mothers who had nurtured community bonds, and the elderly who shared wisdom and stories at the center. Each one mattered. "We stand together. We'll gather voices and stories. Together, our strength is unstoppable." With each word, he felt the power of the community swell. Even Jake, usually so analytical, cheered on with a fervor that was contagious. "This isn't a loss," he shouted, conviction lacing his voice. "It's a chance to redefine who we are." The crowd roared in agreement. The fire within them ignited something magical. The people started sharing their own experiences. Parents spoke of after-school programs that kept their kids safe, seniors shared memories of community gatherings that wove their lives tightly together, and youth highlighted dreams sparked within those very walls. Each story broke down barriers, revealing the undeniable truth: this was their home. Ethan felt the energy reaching a crescendo, and he turned to Sarah and Rachel. "This is it." They nodded, eyes wide with excitement and determination. "Let us use these stories. We can record videos, gather signatures, push this to every media outlet we can." As they launched into action, assigning roles and responsibilities, the excitement in the room was palpable. The sense of collective purpose had shifted their fight from defense to offense. It was electrifying. Days turned into a blur of meetings, laughter, and connections. They interviewed neighbors, shared stories on social media, and worked hard to gather not only funds but the essence of the community's life. The barbecue became a massive celebration, drawing attention from local press and neighboring districts. People arrived in droves, gathering in celebration but also to lend a hand, helping to cook, clean, and spread the word. Then came the day of reckoning. The town meeting was packed once again. Voices filled the room, many raising contrasting opinions against the developer's proposal. But this time, Ethan stood on stage with unshakable certainty, rallying the community. "Together, we've built more than a petition, we've built a story of who we are." The developer sat rigidly on the opposite side, flipping through responses. His face turned a bright shade of disbelief as time after time, families recounted their connections to the community center. "I want to share something," an elderly woman said, her voice trembled with emotion. "I've been coming here since I was a child. I brought my kids here, and now my grandchildren come. You can't put a price on that. This is home." Ethan could see the spark ignite in the eyes of those around him. They were all there to protect something priceless, a legacy. As the meeting came to a close, the whispers of support filled the air, and hope hung thick. The board will take this all into consideration, the mayor announced, clearly moved. Your voices matter. We will ensure this community center's fate is carefully weighed. People erupted in applause. A wave of relief washed over Ethan. Later that night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, he glanced out over the familiar street, feeling lighter than he had in years. Sarah and Rachel stood by his side, faces radiant with the power they had ignited. We did it, Sarah whispered, her eyes shining bright as stars. Now, they couldn't stop. They were building something new, bridging communities, dreams, and histories. Ethan felt tears prickling at the corners of his eyes, a swell of gratitude melting the burdens of the past away. Their undeniable connection was stronger than ever, bonded through pursuit, struggle, and triumph. As he wrapped his arm around Sarah and Rachel, he whispered, "This is just the beginning." And in that moment, beneath a canopy of stars, they understood what it meant to be part of something greater than themselves. Together, they were ready to dream again, to create with their own hands a future where hope thrived, and as the city lights flickered to life around them, one thing was clear, they were ready to rise, together. Now, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories full of transformation and hope. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending. Let us hear your thoughts, and you must share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second to help spread the good vibes. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting our journey through these actions.